At the independent level, you're going to wrestle in a lot of 18-footers and maybe even a few 16-footers. Or if you change to the corporate level of wrestling, you might find yourself wrestling in 20-footers. But a ring's a ring, right? I'm Mike Quackenbush, and this is Till We Make It. Here on my channel, I make videos for professional wrestlers at every single stage of their career. And there's a couple ways you can support the mission of this channel. The easiest of which is to join the Till We Make It tribe. Subscribe down below and enable notifications too. Or if you want to take your support to the next level, consider joining me over on Patreon, a link to which is in the description down below. Woo, it's a windy night here on Wingate Street. Thinking of my Patreon, it is from one of my patrons that today's topic comes. And so I'm dedicating this episode to you, Patrice. So what's the difference between a 20-footer and a 16-footer? Why would you even need to know the size of the ring itself? Well, first and foremost, if you are the owner, you're gonna need to know what size canvas to buy for your ring. But if you are wrestling in it, there are 4 important points we gotta cover, and luckily, we're gonna cover them all in this video. Let's start by talking about all the different sizes of pro wrestling rings out there. We'll work our way from the biggest down to the smallest. At the corporate wrestling level, that is to say, if you're working for a company with enough financial resources to sign people to big dollar figure contracts, and they produce a weekly sports entertainment program for television, chances are you're going to be performing in a 20-footer. And of standard sized rings, those are the biggest that are still in regular use today. Now, I remember when I was breaking in back in the 90s, I heard guys telling stories of wrestling in 22-footers. But I kind of think a 22-footer could be a Sasquatch. And no, I don't mean the Mort from Alpha Flight. I mean, it could be an urban legend. I have never seen a 22-footer. I don't know anyone that's used one. I don't know anyone that could rent one to you if you wanted it. But a 20-footer is generally the domain of corporate level wrestling. The most common size ring in the world is the 18-footer. And chances are the majority of the matches you will wrestle will be in an 18-footer. 2/3 of the world's 18-footers are made by the same company, the North Carolina-based corporation High Spots. And if you need to go about getting a ring from the fine folks at High Spots, when you call them up, ask to speak to Jeff and tell him your old pal Mike sent you. Far less numerous than the 18-footers are the 16-footers. And while they were once quite common on the independent circuit, I feel like I see fewer and fewer of them with each passing year. I've sometimes heard 16-footers referred to as training rings, meaning that the larger sizes were being saved wear and tear specifically for live events. But there are still plenty of 16-footers out there, not just in use for training, but available for rent and being used at live events. The wind outside is crazy. So those are your 3 standard-sized rings, 20-footer, 18-footer, and a 16-footer. But they aren't the only size rings that you might come across in the course of your career. For example, there are also 12-footers, which are sometimes referred to as pub rings. As far as I know, there is only one of these in the United States. They are quite common, or at least they were at one point in time, in the UK, is what you might have seen at a holiday camp show, or when a wrestling card is actually being put on inside a pub. But like the 16-footer, the pub ring, the 12-footer, is becoming less and less common as the years go by. A quick sidebar, a pub ring is not a pony ring. So just so we're clear, a pub ring, as I just mentioned, is 12 by 12 in size, but a pony ring has a low profile. It sits closer to the ground. Most wrestling rings have their floor 36 inches above the ground, but not a pony ring. A pony ring is typically half that size. It sits just 18 inches off the ground. A pony ring and a pub ring are not the same. All right, this brings me to point number 1. Unless you train in rings of various sizes, remember, your ring presence will be oriented to the size ring that you train in. So, if you happen to train all the time in a 16-footer, remember, that is not going to automatically give you ring presence oriented for a 20-footer. That is a real adjustment you'll have to make. A second point about performing in different size wrestling rings that I want to call your attention to is this. If you're going to be using common lucha libre elements in your match, like 3/4 rolls and tiger rolls, or 3/4 y tigres, remember, you're going to have to elongate the distance of those rolls when you're in a ring bigger than the one that you train in. And conversely, you're going to have to shorten up those rolls if you're in a ring that is smaller than the one that you train in. This can easily be accomplished to make your rolls longer, keep your chin up until the last possible second, and stretch out your upper body. Whereas to shorten the length of your rolls, make sure to dip your head and curl your body into the tumble immediately to reduce the distance. Now this next one is really important, so pay close attention. A third point on this topic, and a rather key one at that, is the size of a pro wrestling ring directly impacts the number of strides it will take you to cross the ring from one side of the ropes to the other. So think back to when you were just a trainee and you were learning how to run the ropes. I bet you did an exercise where you learned to count off the number of strides to the pivot point, where you swiveled around on your feet and allowed your back to hit the ropes. Maybe it took you 3 strides to cross the ring and reach the pivot point. Maybe it took you 4 strides, but whatever the case might be, when you change the ring that you're in from the ring you counted off the strides in, remember this rule of thumb. If you size up one, like going from an 18 to a 20-footer, add 1 stride. Or if you size down, like dropping from an 18 down to a 16, subtract 1 stride. And related to that is my fourth point. Not only will your strides change rope to rope, they're also going to change corner to corner when you size up or size down in a pro wrestling ring. This is one of many reasons why walking the ring before the audience is admitted to the venue is crucial to everyone's show prep. And if you don't know what to look for when you're walking the ring, I got a video for that. Not only can I help you learn what to do when walking the ring, I can help you learn how to troubleshoot a dangerous ring. And I've got a video on that topic as well.